All right, we've got some great Oklahoma Sooners news for you guys out there. Of course, this time of year, it's all about the recruiting game. It's all about building a strong pipeline of talent as you look towards the out years. We're talking 2025 and beyond. And of course, Oklahoma moving to the SEC is going to be a huge plethora of challenges they're going to have to attack. But fortunately for the Sooners, Brent Venables and company is doing a phenomenal job on that front. They are winning the month of June. Let's pull up this tweet, this report from the great Hayes Fawcett over at On3 Sports. Great follow on Twitter, X, social media. Highly recommend them. Here's what he said. Oklahoma recruiting has been on fire in June. The Sooners have landed CJ Nixon, number 5 athlete. Marcus Harris, the number 1 wide receiver in California. That's obviously a big deal. Emmanuel Choice, the number 9 wide receiver in Texas. Also a big deal. Jaden O'Neal, the number 6 quarterback in 2026. And one of my favorite names that I've ever heard coming out of the recruiting class, Ryder Mix, a tight end we talked about a couple years ago, the number 10, a couple of weeks ago, excuse me, the number 10 tight end in 2026. Look, it's obvious Oklahoma and Venables are dominating the month of June, putting themselves in a strong position for the future. Miles, I'm really curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Oklahoma fans, in the comment section below, look, obviously, this time of the year, we're really focused on what the quarterback position is going to be, right? Like all eyes are on that position. Can he take the next step? Let's take a step back here and ask you guys to answer this. Who is the greatest quarterback in Oklahoma Sooners history? Right. There's a lot of very interesting names, a lot of wishbone kind of guys that may be at the top of the list, even though they're not traditional quarterbacks. But let us know your opinion, the greatest quarterback in Oklahoma history, and put them in the comment section below. But, Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest recruiting news for the Sooners?
Yeah, Nick, I think this latest grouping of guys is showing Oklahoma more of the same. They're dominating in the places they need to dominate, but in the flip side of that, they're also branching out and really getting some national recruitment going as well. And I think that is very good. Obviously, the caliber of players they're getting is very, very good as well. But you look, CJ Nixon, a guy from Weatherford, Oklahoma, good in state guy. You want to get all of your best in-state players and kind of focus there. We talk about that all the time. On top of that, Emmanuel Choice from Lancaster, Texas. Again, pretty much for Oklahoma, an in-state guy. They kind of owned the state of Texas recently. They're doing a lot of good work there as well. And then finally, you got your favorite guy, Ryder Mix from Frisco, Texas, as well. So in-state or hyper local guys trying to get people from that Oklahoma, Texas surrounding area. They're doing a really good job there. Now they branch out. They're getting guys from California. I mean, Oklahoma, California, not necessarily synonymous with each other, but Jaden O'Neal, Harbor City, California, quarterback from California, heading over to Oklahoma. I think that's fantastic. The number 6 overall quarterback in that 2026 class, that's fantastic as well. Then on top of that, I think probably the more exciting guy is Marcus Harris. You know, that guy is from Santa Ana, California as well. And he's the number 1 receiver in the state of California. So being able to get some of the best players out of the state of California, I think that is huge for Oklahoma as well. They are now branching out to what we always talk about on this channel: recruit local, recruit, I guess you would say regionally, get the surrounding states close by area, people in your conference, then branch out and go national. Oklahoma has now gone national and gotten 2 of the best players out of the state of California. I think this is big for Coach Venables, and I think we're going to see more of the same coming into this 2026 class as well.
There's two factors that I think has been very interesting for Oklahoma, and I compare them with Texas a little bit, right? Texas has been in the news a lot this offseason, right? They've had the Lamborghini pictures. They've been really steering into that craziness of NIL money, right? That trying to capture big time recruits. We're not seeing any of that with Oklahoma. And if you look at the reports like this, Oklahoma's doing just as good, if not better than Texas in a lot of ways, certainly on a national level. But I really want to focus on what Venables has done specifically. Because look, if you look at these list of recruits, Venables, defensive guy, not a lot of defensive linemen on this list, right? Not a lot of middle linebackers, not a lot of nose tackles you're seeing right here, right? These are all athletes, playmakers, right? So for Venables, a defensive guy with his staff, his recruiting arena, to go out with, again, his staff plays a critical role in this, to go out and get athletes, to get offensive playmakers to commit to Norman, I think is a great sign as well. But then I took a deep dive and I went back and looked at Clemson's recruiting rankings before and after Venables. And it's very interesting. When Venables is there, they're a top 5 recruiting powerhouse year in and year out. Venables leaves, goes to Oklahoma. They fall out of the top 5 the first year. A couple of years later, they fall right around to number 8, number 9. And then a year after that, they fall out of the top 10 altogether, right? We're seeing the effect, the Venables recruiting effect. No one really wants to talk about it that much. He's seen as just sort of an energetic players coach kind of guy who's a defensive mastermind. And all of that is true. But there's the very real factor here that Venables may have been the recruiting secret sauce at Clemson that pushed them from being a good program to a national title winning program. And when you look at reports like this and news like we've seen this entire offseason, I'm starting to believe it too that maybe Venables, as great of a defensive coach as he is, maybe his strength is recruiting and using his staff in recruiting. And if that's the case, watch out SEC, right? Because as great of a defensive mind as the great Nick Saban was, his recruiting was his strength. We see the same thing with Kirby Smart at the University of Georgia. It looks like Venables could be cut from the same cloth. And if that's the case, they're going to come into the SEC, the Oklahoma Sooners, with a lot of long-term propositions. There'll be some bumps, of course, along the way as you transition to the new conference. But I think what we're seeing from Venables is a great sign for the long-term health of Oklahoma as they move into the SEC.